Hey, Soul Group. This is As Told by Queers podcast, and I'm Micah.
I'm Portia, and today we are talking about permission. This whole season is about permission. Today's permission conversation is permission to be.
Yes, a permission to be. So I think this is going to be a really great topic. And one of the first questions, just to dive right into it, is why did permission become a conversation for us? Because
Yeah.
we weren't really talking about anything like this. So how did it become a conversation for you, Portia?
Well, to kind of pick up where we left off on the last podcast, we had been introduced to the topic of the word permission from one of our clients, and I think you know how sometimes when you're going through something, but somebody puts a name to it, and you're like, oh, that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Permission. That's what it
Mm-hmm.
is. I think for me, there was so much going on around 2020. It just kicked up so much in general. But for me, I kind of realized that I was at a point where I had been learning and growing and striving for so long. And I had a fixed way that I thought that my life was going to go. I had a way that I thought that I communicated with my friends. I had a way that I thought that I was going to show up with my family. And all of those things kind of were up for negotiation because there was so much chaos happening that I realized and kind of looked around that there was evidence in my life that I wasn't giving myself permission. I wasn't letting myself show up the way that I felt proud to show up. Or in some ways, it was like I was showing up my 21-year-old self to my 33-year-old problems.
Facts.
That makes sense.
That's like the quickest way. Pause, y'all. Pause. Hold on. Let me get Luna's collar. All right. Cool. Now you can scratch away. Okay. So that is the quickest way to kind of like realize that is you're doing things that really don't serve you anymore. What you did when you were 15, 20, 22 doesn't serve you if you're 30, 33. Like that doesn't work anymore. Um, okay, for me, why, like when that showed up for me was, let me see. Oh, there was a whole fire around me. I was the meme of the dog, and there was a whole fire around me, and I was just like, everything's okay. But I knew something was off for sure. So that's when I know, like, that was like the beginning for me when it comes to the conversation. And I didn't even learn the word permission until we linked back up again and you told me about the person that kind of brought that word to like your understanding. And I was like, oh, that's a good way to like understand that. So yeah.
That makes sense. And I think to speak to your fire analogy, even and kind of to go with that, I think those fires come up like every 3 to 6 months, depending on how you're growing. Like if you're continuing to grow, there what I've learned and what it seems like you have to re-give yourself permission every time the circumstances around you shift because the you that you're being in those situations starts to expire, if that makes sense. Like I think that was really the beginning of being like, what I'm doing isn't fully working anymore. Or it's working, but it's not giving me the results that it used to give me, or it's not giving me the heightened results that I need right now. Like, did that make sense?
Right. I was actually talking to my therapist about that today of like a good example would be, when I was younger, under 18, living with my parents, they would tell me to do something or like I couldn't be fully honest with them about, my lifestyle or what I wanted to do or whatever. And I understood for survival, you need to be quiet. You need to just go with the flow. You need to just do what they do. They pay for everything. They help you get to your practice. You don't want to like shake up anything, basically. And so now I don't have to live by that anymore. I don't have to be silent in who I am anymore. They don't pay any of my bills. They don't, I don't use them to survive. I love them. I care about their opinion, but they don't, help me in my day to day like that. So those types of behaviors of lying or not being truly authentic to myself they just don't work.
Fucking
And I,
kill.
and I had to find different ways to have a conversation as their adult child to them of maybe, I don't want to talk to you about this, or you don't feel safe when I talk to you about this. Like those types of conversations that I would never know how to do unless I was given that type of language, you know? So you also have, there's a learning process with giving yourself permission. You have to learn how to do these things because you can't do it from using me as an example, from a 17-year-old mindset. And you kind of get stuck there in that mentality often. Like you stuck there. You decided this is what I have to do to survive, and you continue to do this throughout your life. So yeah, my drink. This is why I can't have no cat. This is why I can't have no cat. Can you imagine your drink on the counter and the cat just jumps on the counter?
Yes, that happened to me before.
See?
Absolutely. And I feel like you nailed it in speaking also around kind of the newness and having to kind of reassess. I think one of the questions that I feel like I finally got to a point of even asking myself is a little bit of like, what is the permission that I need right now that I'm, not giving myself? Or, what are the permissions that I should have given myself before that would have made right now not a reality,
Right.
And even thinking back to your analogy around going back to childhood, it's like, what were those things that you had to do then that you don't have to do now? I think for me, I saw it a lot around my friend dynamics. Like, I think there was a way that I was being when I was younger, and I had so many insecurities as a young person around being liked and being wanted and belonging, that I made myself needed in so many ways, and it becomes so ingrained for a long time that I had never given myself permission to be in a space and not be of service, or to be in a space and not be looking for all of the ways that I can possibly help. And it was like subtle, little tiny things, but started to become expensive because I started to see how me being needed and needing to be needed and wanting to be helpful was actually keeping me from being present with people. It was actually keeping me, the new 33-year-old me, from being able to discern between a situation I should be in and a situation I shouldn't be in, right? Like giving myself that permission to just sit back didn't feel like something I needed to give myself permission to do, but explicitly naming it just gave me a little bit more power to see when I end up in those situations, oh, this is all I did, just my muscle memory coming back. I forgot to give myself permission,
What were some of the things that you learned on the way to giving yourself permission? Mine was language, being able to actually have a language to communicate with my parents differently. Did you get something like that with your friends?
I think for me,
even if it wasn't a language, maybe a behavior that you had to change, or
oh yeah, I mean, so many behavior. And for me, the behavior came around the mindset. Most of my permissions were permission to think about things differently, or permission to receive a situation in a different way. I'll use my physical appearance as an example. I think one of the things that mainly stuck with me was I was giving myself permission now to look at myself in the mirror differently and look at different things, right? I'm gonna give myself permission to look at myself wholly rather than looking at what I like, what I don't like. Let me take apart this, let me move this here. Oh, I see I have a pimple right there. It's a different set of permission. And part of the reason was because my life requires me to be on camera a lot, and it requires me to have a different level of confidence that I was not gonna have if every time I look in the mirror, I'm picking shit apart. Those two things don't work. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. That's real.
And also permission, like you, again, best of my best, bestie of my best, been working with me on clothes and things of that nature, because that was even a permission conversation I didn't know I wasn't having. Is I never gave myself permission to wear clothes that I fucked with. Ever.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that I never did it. I just was like, it's whatever. I don't care about it. And then realize what fucking could be open by just giving myself the one permission to like the things that I wore.
And that opened a whole door, you giving yourself permission to do that. I remember when I first met you, you were like, not like first met you, but we were just getting to know each other really. And you said, I don't even see myself as like a physical like body. I'm like an entity, and I was like, interesting, you know. And that always resonated with me, and I was just like, there's definitely parts of the physical that's there. So this whole journey, being able to see you from where you were to where you are now, is completely different, and you can see how you're getting rewarded for at least addressing certain things that maybe you wanted to ignore, or maybe you just didn't see. You just weren't, it wasn't time for you to see, basically. It wasn't time for you to see that. So that's awesome. That's dope.
That's funny. I have to say something about that because you nailed it
Yeah.
too. I didn't expect to even grow in that department. Let me tell you, to my spiritual woo-woos, right, who know very clearly you're a spirit in a body, you know very clearly this earth is ghetto, you don't belong here. There is something that really exponentially shifted when I could ground myself in a physical reality.
Right.
In this body, there is a learning here. There is growth in being here, and figuring out, because you came to Earth. I'm not a whisper. I'm not a fart in the wind. I came here as a human. So clearly there's a lesson with which this body's got to teach,
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. Well, that feels complete. That feels complete. What's the next question, Portia?
Great question. Um, when did you notice you weren't giving yourself permission to be? Ooh, I think I answered that question by accident. So it's your turn to
You.
answer that question.
Okay, that was yours that you wrote down. Okay. I think for me, I mentioned this last episode, and if you guys haven't checked that out, please go check it out. It's kind of like basically, where the fuck have we been? That is the title. But it was when I was in therapy, and my therapist was like, uh, what if nobody was around and there was no consequences to what you did, what would you do? What would you be like? And I was just so insulted by the question. I was pissed. Like, first of all, when you go to therapy, be prepared for all of the emotions to like come forth, right? Um, and I was so pissed about it. And I was just like, that's not reality, because basically you're gonna say, like, I could do that with people being around me, and that's not the case at all. They're gonna have something to say, all of the nine, like all of it, right? So, you know, I'm pretty sure my therapist wrote a good note to come back to that later. Because I was just like, that's not possible. And I got upset, and we kind of went to, I don't know how it happened, but we definitely moved on to another topic. But it stuck with me, and it stayed with me for a very long time. And, you know, from there, I had to really challenge myself of like, are you really about to live your whole life on whether somebody approves of what you do or what they have to say? And I was just, little by little chipping away. And, I'm on Twitter. And so I stumbled into Twitter, into like the trans area of Twitter, which I was not a part of at all. And I saw this guy, and he was with a trans woman. And I was just like, oh, like this is like my brain was just like little doors were just opening up. Like, that is possible. This is possible. That is possible. And people not giving a fuck. Like, people really not caring. And it's just like, I'm gonna live my life, and it may not look like the norm. It may not look like the norm, but that's what I'm gonna do. And seeing them do that was like, but you're not. You're not gonna live your life, and look how they're living their life, and not even in a judgment way, just like of, it's on you, it's your fault why you're not doing that. You want to blame everybody under the sun, but it's your fault why you're not doing it. So that was like my moment, was seeing so many different types of people, not like the people that fit in the, I don't know, in the box, but a lot of people who weren't fitting in the box and was doing it out loud and not giving a fuck. And I was just like, that's dope. And so confident about it. Um, so I was just like, I have to take those steps. I have to at least challenge myself. And then by that time, 8-8 happened, and I was just like, oh, there's no turning back. You know, where I had to dream, and I talked about that in the last episode.
See, and I think what's really interesting about what you said and discovering that for yourself is watching you walk your talk now, and permission in that sense has given you so many access points, because it's like everything that you do, the way that you move now, it's like, do I actually fuck with this? Let me make a decision about it. Do I actually fuck with this? Do I actually like how this feels? Which feels like such a drastic difference from the way that you were moving before, even though it might seem like those two things don't even match each other.
Oh yeah, I understand. This has played when you really start to see how you move, they go together. Like it's like there's no separating. Oh, this is just that, as if it doesn't affect and cover the rest of your life. That's not a thing. They all mesh together. Me not, speaking up in certain areas, or me being angry, or it's all tied to, or me having anxiety, like literally physically feeling anxiety before I go to my family therapy. There's a reason why I feel that way. It's because I'm holding my tongue. I'm not speaking on how I really feel about something. Like that all ties to me not being comfortable with being myself fully, and like dealing with the consequences and trusting myself. All of this stuff created, me and how I express myself. So it's important to really get down to these things and see how they mesh and intertwine with your life.
Ooh, you hit it. And I think so many people are having this conversation around, and so many people have said to me, like, it's about getting to know yourself, and you're just like, okay, fuck you, I got shit to do. Or, okay, fuck you, I'm trying to like live a life or whatever. Like, I'll get to know myself. Or you put it really on the back burner. But I wish that we spent more time. Like, I think this permission conversation is the beginning, really giving yourself permission to see it all, look at all of it, will begin to help you to know how to be with yourself, how to get to know yourself. And what you just said is so important, because getting to know you and feeling what you fuck with and seeing the things that don't and moving from that space, that energy, that's how you manifest. That's how you align. That's how
That part.
everything else in life starts to fall into place. It has to start with you. And every time you put yourself on the back burner, you're just adding time to you having to go back and excavate that shit.
Period. You said that perfectly. And I feel like my manifestation game is on point.
10, done. Stupid. Stupid. You manifested for me over here, and I appreciate it.
And you manifested for yourself. And it's just like it there's just a better way. There's a better way. And I think it's worth stopping to look at yourself. It's worth stopping and like asking yourself, what can I do better? It's totally worth it. And what can you do better for yourself? Like when I first got into therapy, it was all about, it's so funny how things have changed. It was all about other people. It was all about what people are doing to me on why I can't move the way I want to move. And now I'm in therapy, a different therapist, and my last therapist was great. So nothing happened. It was time to close, basically. That and then I get a whole nother therapist, and now my therapy sessions are mostly about myself, like me, what I want, what's important to me, and not me in reflection of someone else. It's just me and like my inner thoughts of myself. And it's important to get to that point. For me, it was really important to get to that point because I've always been so focused on what other people, what the other. Da, da, da. I'm a Libra rising. Spare me, okay? I had no choice.
Never for the grace of God goes on.
But things have changed. Things have changed for the good, and I really like it. I
It
think
looks
I
good
brought
on
more
you, man.
balance.
It looks
Thank
good on
you.
you.
Thank you. All right. So, last question I believe was is what are you going what are you giving yourself permission to be? So we have a list.
Hmm. I have a whole ass list. Can I go first?
You want to go back and forth?
Okay.
Or do you want to read your whole thing? Let's go back and forth. Let's go back and forth.
A
I like
team
when we
back
go
and forth.
back and forth.
I want back and
Okay.
forth and reflections.
Of course.
Because it's us.
It wouldn't be right if we didn't give reflections.
Right.
Your turn.
My first one, I am giving myself permission to be attracted to myself and to invite attraction to me. Bitch, come on. We're trying. We're trying here.
Okay. Do you want to go into that, or because I got a reflection really quickly?
Well, I will say part of it is just like, you know what? My previous way of being was when people would pay me a compliment or when I would find myself attracted, I would go back to either old Christian programming of like, stop being vain, vain is the devil, or I would go with like, oh, like if someone gives me a compliment, I'm looking to give the compliment right back rather than just being able to be like, thank you for noticing that something about me was attractive. We're dead in that shit. I am giving myself permission to feel attractive and to expect to be other people to be attracted to me. And that is absolutely Micah working in life.
That's because some people been finding you real attractive and it's been shocking you, which throws me the fuck off.
I am learning every day, friends. I am learning every day.
Speaking of attraction, first of all, I love that you're there. I love that you're there. I love that you're giving me your permission to do that. Me being the best, I know, how far we've come. All right. So I think speaking of attraction, it's so interesting because now that I've decided to really just embrace my transition and embrace who I am fully, I found myself a million times more attractive. Like a million times more attractive. Like a bitch is walking past the damn car window and it's like, okay, double glance. It's one of those.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's like you turn yourself on. I understand, like that's the thing. I love that. So we'll give ourselves permission to do that. I'm here for that. Mine is to celebrate my transition. I think that this is important for me just because I've been taught to really keep things under the rug. I've been taught to kind of like be ashamed of those things that have to do with queerness in general. And I just don't feel like that should be a thing. I want to challenge myself more on my own beliefs, on the beliefs of other people, and just be proud of the steps that I'm taking. This is a real process. Me, number one thing about me is I'm not patient. So the fact that I'm going through this transition, and the number one thing about this transition is that it is a transition. It is a process and it takes time. So the fact that I'm able to give myself the patience and to be gentle with myself as much as possible is something to celebrate, let alone all the other steps and like strides I'm doing during this transition. So
we love to fucking see it, Best. We love to fucking see it. I love that you're letting yourself be celebrated around this because I think that how many big milestones are you going to have in your life that are this big and change this much? You should celebrate those moments. You're going to have enough hard ones, so why not celebrate the ones that you fuck with?
You're right. You're right. And it would make my journey so much better. It'll make me appreciate a lot more. And the times that I am down, because it is ups and downs. I'm human, just like everybody else. So it's like there will be down moments, and in that you can stay stronger if you actually have moments to celebrate. Than if you just ignore it and then the down times come, because then it's like you're never out of it. You're never happy, basically.
I also have to say, part of I love the gayness and the queerness of it all. I feel like society has their own bullshit traditions about how things have to go, and we get skipped in that a lot. Part of you giving yourself permission to celebrate your transition is that you give permission to your community, people like me, to celebrate you as well, and that becomes something that's a part of our memories as well.
I know, man. My chosen family has been fucking amazing, and my fiance has been fucking amazing through this whole situation. I don't know if I would have been able to make it through sanely, like sanely, without them for sure. And shout out to my therapist.
Hey.
All right, your turn.
My next one is I'm giving myself permission to be in flux and figuring it out. I'm giving myself permission to really be like, I don't know, I'm figuring it out. I'm not really sure, but I'm figuring it out.
Whoa, this is a new one. I didn't
Right?
know this, Miss Perfectionist.
I told you.
Yes,
I made a fucking list.
I made a fucking list. I'm here for it.
Look, I'm
I'm
growing.
here for it.
I'm trying here.
That one's hard for me. I finally stumbled upon my perfection, and it's really really around like it's a lot, but I ain't there yet.
Baby
Hold
step.
space. Hold space.
I'm
Okay,
holding space.
thank you. Um, okay, to transition in a way that fits me and not an identity. So I think this
Mm.
is im- so I think this is important just because um, at first, what was very frustrating about me transitioning is when I looked up everything, it was more of people who were on one end of the spectrum or the other. They didn't really talk about the in between. And I truly feel the right being this side being masculine and this side being feminine. I feel like right here of that. So I'm in between the middle and the masculine. And it was really hard, because a lot of people are not validated unless they're passing. The people that and I'm just so happy to want to really dress masculine. So lucky me, but like my mentality is not like that. Or there's tons of people who are more feminine has gotten top surgery, and they look like a really blend, but their transition is not validated. It's not valid. And I just think that is messed up. I don't think that um, it's something to really like. To me, everyone's journey in their transition or whatever is valid. And I think that we just need to talk about that more and really address that because it's dangerous. Because some people really do want to transition, but they feel like they have to go all the way on the other side. And you're wondering why people are detransitioning, are not really happy once they get to that part. We have to talk about everybody that's in between the spectrum. It's really important. So just allowing myself to be where I am and take the process, the day to day process until I feel like, okay, I'm at that point where I feel really comfortable with my transition. I can settle in that and be okay with that.
I love it best. And I'm super proud of you for giving yourself permission for that because I know that can't not always the easiest. It's like walking a path that hasn't been pre-paved. And I really encourage so many people to find whatever their version of that conversation is. It's been delicious to watch your blend and watch you reblend and decide what that is. It's such a unique experience that trans folks get to have that I really want to see more people blossom into. And I think it's a lesson that all of us can take, that your own way is the way, and you should be figuring out the way to move things away from the path that you're paving rather than trying to get on somebody else's path.
Exactly. I think that's why, there needs to be more laws put in place for people that are they and them and theirs that go by those pronouns. Those things need to become a norm because if not, then, you know, then we're really going to continue the binary. You have to understand, even if you are trans, that doesn't mean you're not going by the binary. There's plenty of people that I've seen amongst the trans community that do not validate people who are non-binary, that do not validate people who do go as trans man, but do not that still look feminine, or vice versa. So it's just like we have to come together. That's how I feel.
That makes sense. I love it. I love to see it.
Next,
Is it my turn?
yes.
Okay. I would say my next one is I'm giving myself permission to be exposed. Um, that
Oh
is my
shit.
next one. Sip your icy beverage.
I literally I have none left.
I'm sipping it hard. It's fine. But I personally know about myself that I like to say that I'm an open book, but the things that I feel vulnerable about are what we would call 2%. And I don't necessarily expose that particular part of me all the time. And I'm really going to get comfortable with that because, I've gained so much from people opening up their heart and really truly showing what the real is behind the curtain. And I'm sick of things having to have some pretend look to them to be right or to be the way you should move. Or I'm tired of seeing people's end results because my ass is here in the middle figuring it out. So it would be nice to see other people who are in the middle figuring it out. And I'm going to be happy to be one of those kind of people. So permission to expose myself more freely in all the ways.
So we're bringing 2% to As Told by Queers podcast. Are we
Are
doing
we
that?
not talking to them about 2%? Oh, is this the 2% conversation? Guys, my favorite conversation. Is this real? Are we doing this?
I mean, you're the one who made this thing. You're the one who's bringing this. This is not the things that I'm giving myself. This is things you're giving yourself.
Correct.
It's clear.
Correct. Do I need to explain?
I'm here. Yes, of course.
Okay. As Told by Queer Soul Fam, welcome to 2%. So 2% is a conversation that I have with Micah and that I have with a lot of my friends now since having them with Micah about kind of how you share information. So like, let's say you're somebody that is pretty open or whatever, and you share 80% of the thoughts that come into your mind or 80% of the things about you share with the world. If there's that 20% that's kind of just saved for people who really know you well, people you really fuck with, people you fuck on, people who fuck on you, people who are, close to you in that department. Out of that 20%, you typically have about 10 or 5% that you don't tell nobody. You don't tell another soul. It's just things that you keep close into yourself. And then out of that 10%, there's that last little percentage of shit that you maybe even haven't let yourself say out loud in your own mind. You're like, okay, like that's a deeper level. That might even be things my higher self is trying to get to me that it ain't even all fully down.
It ain't
come
it
down.
ain't went through all the funnels yet.
There's a lot. It's a lot going on up here. There's a lot of stuff that the therapist ain't even got to before it could even get to me. That's that little piece right there is 2%. And so sharing information that's your 2%, also like your deepest and your darkest, or the things that you feel the closest and the most vulnerable around currently. So when I say 2%, that is the 2% conversation.
Got you. That was perfectly said, friend. I couldn't have said it better. So good. Okay.
I'm here to serve, friend. Here to serve.
So when we say 2%, y'all know what that means. All right. Okay. So next one is making people uncomfortable. I'm giving myself permission to make people uncomfortable.
Do it.
In the sense of like, if you have your beliefs, I have mine. If this makes you uncomfortable, you could go figure that out. Making people like that is yours, not mine. Understanding that. So yes, I'm giving myself permission to make people uncomfortable if that's how they want to be, for them to fix.
Come on, boundaries. Come on, boundaries.
All right. Next. I got two more.
I have like 4 more. Let me see. The next one I have is I'm gonna own what I have mastery in. There's been a new one I came up with today. I am giving myself permission to own the things that I have mastery in. Because I can tell you, people, again, it comes back to the compliments things. Like, what do people tell me a lot of the times? Like, oh, you're smart, or I really love the way that you thought about this, or your strategy for this is really great. And oftentimes my first instinct is to reflect that. Like, I don't know no more than you know. Like, I learned it just the way that you can, because I never want people to feel like some things are unattainable, because I hate ego-y people who talk about this from this space of like, I know so much and you done that. One day you'll get, like, it's such bullshit to me. So I never wanted to live that life. But at the same time, I can own in a way that's not gross the things that I've taken the time to fucking learn. And I've spent time busting my ass, learning and trying to master in this life. I have a couple of those things that I'm really proud of. And I'm giving myself permission to own my worth around that.
I feel it. I like that. Um, I think for me, the next one would be claiming my space. So,
Mm-hmm.
if there's something that I feel uncomfortable with, if there's something I don't want to talk about, and I know people think of space of like actual physical space, but I'm more of just talking about in general, like anything that like makes me feel uncomfortable, or this is where I want to insert myself at. I'm making sure that I give myself permission to do that.
I appreciate you giving yourself permission, because you giving yourself permission has also given me permission. That has been
You
a
already
that's a
know.
whole other podcast. That's a conversation that gives dividends and dividends and dividends.
Friend, we should have a podcast on what we give one another as friends, because people have trash as friendships, and I think, not to toot our own horn, but our friendship is beautiful.
Oh, best. That would be cute. Also, like, this is gross, and
It
people.
is gross. People are gonna be like, "Shut the fuck up."
I mean,
Look, if
you
y'all really
can be this
down,
gross with people that you love, though, and the
we're
gross
totally
feels
gross.
really good. Is all I'm saying.
We're totally just like so much. We're
Yeah,
so much. We are
yeah.
really so much. Our spouses are really close friends also, and they talk about how freaking ridiculous we are at times.
Constantly, all the time. They're always like, these Libras. I'm like, don't be mad, because there's enough love to give. Okay,
Right. And you Capricorns sometimes don't understand that, but
we're not dragging them today.
we're not. We're not even gonna waste our energy. All right. So claiming my space. Boom. Your turn.
I did wine. Do you want me to do another one?
Yeah, I have one more left.
Okay, I'll do
So
another one.
pick pick a really good one.
Okay. Ooh. This one actually came from Xavier. And I was like, this is the permission conversation. I'm giving myself permission to celebrate the things that don't just come hard, but that come easy. Woo! Xavier must have posted, okay, Sleepy Moon Astro, I think, on Twitter and on Instagram. Go follow them. Get yourself a blessing. Xavier posted something to the effect of, my ancestors died and cried so things could come to me easy. And and I can't just celebrate the things that were hard. I want to also celebrate the things that came to me easily. And that was a word on my soul.
A word. We're that's definitely a clip. That's a clip right there.
A word on my whole soul. We have to celebrate ease if we want to cultivate ease. If we want to
Yes,
cultivate it, we have to celebrate it.
I feel that. You see what I did on Marco earlier today? Another day of manifestation.
Yes, you sure did. Call it in. Name it and claim it. Name it and claim it, please.
All right. So, last one is my sexual desires matter. So
Yeah.
it's very. Why are you like this?
Because nigga, Libra, extra. Permission to give myself extra.
Okay. So I think that, people, what was for me, the thing that like, where this came from was like the way that people were having sex with me, that I didn't really care for it. And I'm not talking about my current partner. I'm talking about just in general. When I think about my sex life in general, um, I didn't care for it. And I never really claimed that. And I think it's just because of me being molested, all of that whole 9 yards, and me not really being able to like speak up in that type of way. And so I felt like the empowerment really came from me really owning what turns me on. How do I like to be pleased? And, you know, I have a partner who's also very comfortable, like who I can have a conversation with around this type of stuff, and I feel vulnerable enough and open enough to have that. And so, ever since really my partner, I've really been able to open up about that, and life has been great. Desires have been I've been checking them off. the list has been getting checked off. And so I'm just giving myself permission to do that, permission to say that I want to do certain things that may be seen deemed as hoish or whatever. I don't give a fuck. That's what I like. So are you going to give it to me or not?
That's the energy. So you're going to give it to me or not?
Or not.
Uh-huh. Look, again, this is another one that I'm really grateful for that liberation over there, because then I get to get all of the like, and did you know this? And did you know this? And bitch, did you know this? No, I sure didn't. Could you please put me on?
Right. And that just goes with like the certain toys that I buy, there's sexual toys that I buy, there's more exploring of myself, bitch. The nuts are great.
The nuts and the toy conversation. Just continue to open up, Micah. Continue to give yourself permission. The rest of us in the world are benefiting, and we just want to say thank you.
There's no turning back. I took the pill. Which pill was it? Was it the red or the blue? I think it was the red pill.
I never remember. Literally, never.
I'm gonna set the red pill.
Okay.
And I can't turn back now. So onward we go.
You're gonna wake up in that tub covered in that little jelly shit. Thing.
Go ahead. You're the last one.
Oh, last one. Did I not? Okay. Oh, my last one was that I'm giving myself permission to brag on my gifts. Yes. And giving gifts, and these gifts oftentimes, because they don't really feel like they belong to me, they are being borrowed from above and below and around, and I'm just kind of exemplifying them or amplifying them. But you know what? I think I've learned that as I give myself permission to own it and allow myself to be able to feel good about them as gifts, I've been able to spread them more easily, and my confidence in them allows other people to feel confident in their gifts. Like, I noticed the other day as I was having this conversation with someone that was considerably younger than me, like early teenage years, how weird I felt about, especially some of the more witchy things, like how weird it was to dream of people before they died, how weird it was to like get weird little whispers in the back of my mind about someone and then go to reach out to them and something happened. Like, that used to make me feel so weird and different, and it was a very isolating, alienating experience. So I think expressing and people being more embracing that stuff now more, I'm seeing kids be more like, oh no, I do that too. And you don't feel so alone. You know, that I hope that helps to kind of bridge that feeling, because I wish somebody would have had shown it to me in that way when I was that age and things felt weird.
I feel that. Permission to celebrate. Permission to brag about some gifts. I'm here for that.
10 out of 10. Permission to
all right, so group. Exactly. So group. I would love y'all to answer these questions. Of course, if you guys go and follow us on Instagram, we're going to post this question. I would love to hear you guys. We would love to hear you guys' comments. And yeah, we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Anything else you want to say, Portia?
That I love the soul group, and we're back, bitches. Now that we're back, we want to be having these conversations, y'all. And you know, if you're listening to this and you're like yelling at the screen, come yell at our Instagram, because we want to talk to you. It's a thing.
All right. Good way to say that, Portia. All right. Love y'all. Hope y'all have a good rest of y'all week and everything else. Peace.